from the Mercy One studio.
Support for Faith on Trial and Iowa Catholic Radio provided in part by Imogene Ingredients.
Our freedom of conscience and religion is being challenged by laws and regulations imposed by secular society. It's time to hear from the top Christian litigators in the nation who have come forward to tell us the truth and help us defend our faith.
Hear ye, hear ye. All rise. Faith on Trial with Defender of the Faith, Deacon Mike Mano, is in session.
Good morning from the Mercy One studios in West Des Moines. I'm Deacon Mike Mano, and I'm here with Gina Knoll. Gina, how are you this morning?
I'm well, Deacon Mike. I'm well.
Good.
We're here during Carathon Week.
Carathon Week, that's right.
Helping the station support itself with the contributions of our listeners.
That's right, that's right.
We're hoping you can...
All week.
All week.
All week,
That's
right. Right, and this is how we support ourselves here. One of the ways we do, obviously, we have different sponsors for programming, but the main thing I think comes from our listeners.
Our listeners are very generous, and we're hoping we can gain some new ones this morning during our hour on the show. If you're willing and able to make a contribution, the phone number is 515-223-1150, or you can text the word donate to 515-223-1150, and they'll send you a link back that you can contribute online.
And you can go to iowacatholicradio.com, and there's a place on there you can push the button to donate, and very easy to do.
Very easy
if you're inclined to do it, and we hope you are, because we think we bring you some very good programming. Yeah, I think you want to remember that most of our morning program that we have during the week is local programming that we do ourselves here. We do a lot of the network stuff in the afternoon, but it either way, it costs a bit to keep this type of programming on the air.
It does.
And obviously we need financial support in order to keep going.
And your prayers.
And your prayers.
Your prayers are very important also, especially for the station and for the hosts and the technicians behind the scenes. It takes a great sacrifice for all of them to do what they do all week long.
That's right. That's right. And it's you know, I've mentioned this before. If St. Paul were alive today, I think he'd be on the radio.
Wow.
Yeah,
I think he would be a good host,
I think he would
sure.
be. And that's how he would evangelize, you know.
Do you think he'd tweet? Do you think he'd have a Twitter account?
I don't know if he would have a Twitter account or not, but I'm sure he'd have a Facebook page, St. Paul.
Until he was taken down.
Until he was taken down, right, yeah. Violate their community standards some way, yeah.
Which transitions into our program, Faith on Trial.
That's right.
So this week, it's October, Deacon Mike. So it dawned on me this morning that October, the Supreme Court of the United States goes back into session.
First Monday in October.
First Monday. So it won't be till next week. And have you seen what's on the docket? Do we know yet what they're going to take up?
Yeah. We have some ideas. I mean, we know what's scheduled for oral argument. And you can go to SCOTUS.com. And that's an interesting website to kind of keep you up to date with what's going on the Supreme Court.
So I don't know if you know the answer, or maybe our first guest will today, but will they be in session in person coming in this October, or will they again be only on the phone, telephonically?
I think they're probably going to do it telephonically, and the reason why I say that is because congressional hearings are still being done that way. So I would imagine the Supreme Court would do the same
Everything
thing.
on the Hill is still
right.
in Washington,
And of course, there will be a vacancy when they get together. Next week, there will only be 8 of them because we lost a judge last week. But we have a new judge that's been appointed. And if she is confirmed, and we're going to be talking about Amy Coney Barrett here in a few minutes, but if she is confirmed, then that'll bring the court up to its full complement of 9.
Right.
Now, there is and this is something we need to worry about, There is a movement out there, and unfortunately, Mr. Biden has not given us the answer. He's been asked the question several times, but he's not answered the question. The Democrats, if elected, are pledging to increase the number on the Supreme Court, pack the court, so they could put on another 2 or 4 members of the court, which would really turn our judicial system upside down. So that's something we need to worry about. It appears that they are willing to do that. By his non-answer, I can only assume that Mr. Biden is kind of playing games a little bit with the question, that he's not going to answer it because too many people will be horrified by the answer. But
well, he doesn't win. With either answer, he doesn't win.
Well, yeah, that's true. It's a political thing. But he's playing hide the ball, obviously. You know, he was asked directly at the debate the other night, at that mud fight they had that we call a debate. He was asked directly, and he would not answer. He keeps saying, well, if I answer, that makes that the issue. Well, it is an issue. He's running for president, for heaven's sake, and he won't answer it. So packing the court, ending the filibuster, those are things that kind of worry me as we look into this election.
Well, to alleviate your worry, I'm going to begin this program with a prayer.
Good.
A prayer for peace, because only God can take these things into account and make them right.
That's right.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God of peace, bring your peace to our violent world, peace in the hearts of all men and women, and peace among the nations of the earth. Turn to your way of love those whose hearts and minds are consumed with hatred. Strengthen us in hope, and give us the wisdom and courage to work tirelessly for a world where true peace and love reign among nations and in the hearts of all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Gina. And we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back with I Am Power from the Article 3 Project to talk about the Supreme Court.
Hi, this is Father John Ricardo, and I want to thank Caldwell Parish Funeral Home and Crematory for underwriting Christ is the Answer. Losing a loved one, as we know, is never easy, and it can leave you feeling lost and even hopeless at times. But Caldwell Parish helps ease that burden by sincerely caring both about your loss and about your faith. Caldwell Parish Funeral Home and Crematory is Des Moines' only Catholic-owned and operated funeral home. Their number is 515-276-0551 or online at caldwellparish.com.
Thank you, Blessman International, for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio. Everyone lives their life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How we use that time directly affects if our life will leave a significant impact or not. Each year, Blessman International leads Central Iowans on a 12-day, all-inclusive experience sharing the heart of Christ with children in South Africa. Teams are forming to do something significant in an African child's life. Learn more at blessmaninternational.org. That's blessmaninternational.org.
Is it time for a new roof? Then it could be time for you to get to know Bell Construction. Bell Construction is a roofing company entering its 30th year of business. They specialize in residential re-roofs, light commercial jobs, and have the experience to meet all of your roofing needs with personal service. With Bell Construction, the owner will come to your home or place of business in person to inspect and ensure the quality of work that you deserve. They pride themselves in working with you on a personal basis and making sure you are satisfied. Bell Construction, 515-963-4494.
Thank you, Big Red Q Quick Print, for underwriting the Sports Report. Family owned and operated since 1980, Big Red Q Quick Print is a full-service print shop ready to help you with all your printing needs with speed and accuracy. Forms, manuals, brochures, letterhead, envelopes, business cards, custom invitations, design, and bindery. Big Red Q Quick Print, located across from Merle Hay Mall. Online at bigredq-desmoines.com. Big Red Q Quick Print. We make printing easy.
What is the best gift ever? Giving a Catholic education is at the top of my list. Your contribution to CTO helps families send their children to our Catholic schools who otherwise could not afford it. In giving to CTO, you receive the best tax credits ever. Pledge or donate online at ctoiowa.org. The bottom line, it's for the kids and their future.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Faith on Trial provided by Paul Martin and Paul Mitchell, owners of Imogene Ingredients. Imogene Ingredients supply specialized feed ingredients for livestock and pet diets to improve maternal and young animal health in both conventional and organic production. And we are back with Ian Pryor, a senior counsel with the Article 3 Project. Ian, how are you this morning?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Good. We're happy to have you. Why don't you just, before we begin, explain what the Article 3 project is? Obviously, Article 3 refers to the Constitution, Article 3, which deals with the courts.
Yeah, that's right. So the Article 3 project is an advocacy group focused on education and advocacy supporting President Trump's judicial nominees, defending them from attacks from the left. And obviously, we have a very big task on our hands with the president's nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court.
Let's talk about Amy Coney Barrett. First of all, what do we know about her judicial philosophy? Obviously, she's received a lot of news, a lot of notoriety, but it looks like there's going to be a lot of attacks against her. But let's start with her judicial philosophy.
Well, her judicial philosophy is very much in line with her mentor, Justice Scalia, who she clerked for on the Supreme Court. She is committed to the Constitution. She's an originalist. She's a textualist. She is not somebody that is going to look at the Constitution as a living, breathing document, as many on the left do.
She's not going to be looking under penumbras, then.
Exactly. No, there will be no penumbras in Amy Coney Barrett's reading of the Constitution. And look, she's shown herself to be an extraordinarily gifted constitutional scholar over the past 20 years as a professor at Notre Dame Law School. She's brought that to the bench in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, and we expect that she will be confirmed and bring that same rock-solid conservative and constitutionalist philosophy to the Supreme Court.
Let's talk about her record as a judge on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. Does she have much of a written trail in that capacity? She's only been on the court, I think, about 2.5 or 3 years.
She does. She has a few cases that I think we can highlight. The first one has to do with Second Amendment rights. It involved a conviction where somebody was convicted of mail fraud, and the statute at issue would have deprived him of his ability to exercise his Second Amendment rights. She pushed back on that, specifically saying, look, this is not what the founders intended. The Second Amendment, we're not looking at just people that may have committed crimes. We're looking at issues that may deal with violent tendencies and whatnot. And somebody that is convicted of mail fraud clearly does not have that. That's one of the opinions. The other opinion had to do with sort of an interesting issue where there was an accusation at a university of sexual assault, and the accused was not given due process by the university. And so she was very adamant that the accused in these situations need to be given due process, and they need to be treated fairly.
I think that second case is kind of interesting because a lot of people know about Second Amendment litigation and the right to bear arms and all that, but lately, and it's kind of hidden away from the public because it doesn't rise to a level that the local news is going to carry it every night. But there's been a lot of complaints and a lot of arguments around the country about what is going on campuses as far as student rights when they're accused of something. And there have been a number of court cases that have risen from that, all claiming that a student who's accused of some nefarious activity on campus is not given an opportunity to really defend himself, but is usually presumed to be guilty and treated accordingly.
Yes, and that's obviously quite a big problem because these are students. This is something that could prevent them from, it could get them suspended, it could get them expelled, it could hurt their ability to get jobs later, it could hurt their ability to get into different schools. So it is important that due process is afforded to everybody, not just in the court of law, but also in schools that receive federal funding. And so that's one of the issues that came up because it was in this case, Doe versus Purdue University. It involved the violation of his Fourth Amendment rights and Title IX funding.
Okay, all right. Now, what are we looking at as this? What is the agenda for the Supreme Court this term? I guess is the substance of my question. What issues are coming up? What is scheduled for hearing, and what issues does it look like may be percolating up by way of writs of certiorari?
I haven't gotten a chance to review the full court record for this term. That's something I'm going to be looking to do over the next couple of weeks as we get closer to this confirmation. But I think that there's a lot of things that could come across the Supreme Court's desk, after the election. I mean, I think that's very important to consider, where we have a situation that the election may not be formally decided until well after November 3rd, and certainly we saw the fallout in Bush versus Gore 20 years ago with the mail-in ballot issues being highlighted. This is something that it is important to have a full court, and that is just another reason why Amy Coney Barrett should be immediately confirmed.
Well, and it's not just simply for the presidential races. It's been pointed out that depending on what parts of the country that these cases arise with the mail-in ballots, it could affect congressional races as well. And as close as some of these races are, it would be very beneficial to have the 9 justices.
Absolutely. Certainly the Senate is hotly contested, more so than the House, but that doesn't mean that the House is necessarily out of reach. But, one of the things that I think people need to consider with this election, especially with the Senate, which is very important, is that the left is talking about packing the court. The left is talking about getting rid of the filibuster, talking about expanding statehood to Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. These are things that would fundamentally change the construction of our republic. It's unfortunate that the media is not forcing people to answer these questions, because this is going to be more radical and revolutionary than any really piece of legislation that we're talking about now. And the folks that are on the Senate certainly need to, or in the Senate certainly need to be held accountable, and they need to be forced to answer this question, because it is an extremely important issue that could change the way our country looks.
It's been pointed out to me that the courts kind of put themselves in this position by becoming more political themselves. They have now become part of the election process. And, we used to talk about how important it was to make your vote based on the candidates' ideas about what they want to do with appointments to the Supreme Court. And, whether it was kind of vague, innocuous. It might happen, it might not. Now it's just so clearly vivid in how we vote and how we make our choices at the polls.
Yeah, and certainly it's something that I think is half a century in the making. If we go back to the early 20th century and before, Supreme Court confirmations were sort of a sleepy affair. They weren't front page news. They weren't front and center in political campaigns. But then as you get into the 70s and certainly the 80s with Judge Bork, Justice Thomas, even some of the folks like Justice Souter, we're dealing with a different kind of confirmation process where it became more political. And then you get into the 2000s, you have Alito and certainly Brett Kavanaugh being the most recent and, unfortunate example of not just political attacks, but, personal attacks, personal dirt digging, and really trying to smear the nominee as we hadn't seen before. And I would say that, it doesn't necessarily go both ways. Justice Sotomayor and Justice Kagan were confirmed by bipartisan majorities in the Senate, and I don't recall any specific smears or allegations or attempts to derail those confirmations.
Sure. It's very political, and I would agree with you. It hasn't always been that way. It was kind of innocuous. It was something that was taken care of behind the scenes, and everybody came to agreement on the next appointment. And I don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. Did the Supreme Court become more political because of the individuals who were seated, or did it become more political because of the way the press and the agenda of the different parties expressed the decisions?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I think it's representative of our political system and discourse as a whole. Certainly with the advent of cable news in the 90s and social media in the 2000s, we've really seen more divisiveness, more anger, unwillingness to, listen to other people's point of view. And I think there's been a catering to the base of political parties, which has only increased the divisiveness. And the Supreme Court, obviously, I think people understand it is, it's far more consequential in many respects than any individual election, because these justices serve for a lifetime. So if you have a conservative majority, that can last for a generation. If you have a liberal majority, that can last for a generation, certainly longer than a 6-year Senate term or 2 4-year presidential terms.
Well, Ms. Coney Barrett seems like an ideal Supreme Court justice. She clearly understands the law. She seems very judicious. The fact that she's Catholic, to me, and Orthodox Catholic, she seems to me someone who understands rules and boundaries and the truth.
Absolutely, and I don't think you could have picked a better candidate for the Supreme Court than Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, watching the ceremony in the Rose Garden, it was quite impressive how she is as a mother, as a wife, as a judge, as a professor. I mean, she checks all the boxes as an ideal Supreme Court justice. And I think it's going to be very difficult for her opponents to do what they did to Brett Kavanaugh or Sam Alito or Judge Bork. I find it very difficult to think that they are going to be able to successfully do that and not, quite frankly, debase themselves in front of national TV in the process. Even Joe Biden the other night said she's a very fine person and he has no opposition to her. So it's not clear to me, although I know they will do it, it's not clear to me how the Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee are going to approach these hearings.
The one thing that I haven't found in her background anywhere, and maybe you can speak to it, is oftentimes there's some sort of political activism in our nominee's background. It doesn't seem like she's had any kinds of political activity or activism. Even in her Catholicism, I haven't seen her publicly involved in even like pro-life or religious liberty types of activities.
That's right. I think she's been very focused on her scholarship, on her professorship, on her family, and now on her judgeship in the Seventh Circuit. She is definitely not somebody that I would categorize as political. I think she is, her priorities are to her family, are to her faith, are to the rule of law, and she's been pretty consistent about that over the past 20 years.
Seems like a great candidate to me.
Unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of stuff floating around in the press now about different columnists and different talking heads starting to talk negatively about her, especially about certain aspects of her life. Like, for example, having 7 children. She's been criticized for the adoption of some of her children, that she was doing that just as a token. Is any of that really going to come out, or is that just going to be an undercurrent? And if you think it is going to come out, what is the defense to that, or what is the argument back?
Well, I think if that comes out in Senate Judiciary Committee hearings, it will blow back massively on whoever brings that up. I saw that tweet this weekend. It was by somebody named Ibram Kendi. He is somebody that is quite divisive in how he operates. But I did see lots of retweets and lots of commenting on it by activists that seem to see that as a valid point of contention, that she adopted 2 children from Haiti and that somehow was inappropriate. And I think America knows better. I think America will look at her family, they'll look at her personality, they'll look at her judicial temperament, and they'll see a person that they can aspire to be. I think they'll see somebody that would be a role model for young women in America. And I think that anybody that attacks her for adopting children, for having 7 children, including one with special needs, and then working, I think they're going to have quite a bad time if they try and bring that out in the open. But what I do expect is that the people that are opposed to her confirmation are going to do their best to spread this kind of unfortunate narrative to a willing Washington D.C. media that unfortunately often takes what is given to them by the left and repeats it as fact and creates a swirling narrative in the Beltway.
What I'm concerned about in the Judiciary Committee right now, of course, is Dianne Feinstein, who characterized her 3 years ago as the doctrine dogma lives loudly within you. And we have kind of a pit bull there in the person of Kamala Harris. And we have Mazie Hirono, who is, in my opinion, probably the stupidest member of the committee, and says things way out of whack sometimes. I'm wondering how tame the committee hearing is going to be, considering all of that.
Yeah, and I think you can add Dick Durbin to that list. So you have Durbin, you have Kamala Harris, you have Mazie Hirono. They not only went after Amy Coney Barrett, but went after Brian Boucher, who is a district court judge, during his confirmation hearing about his membership in the Knights of Columbus. That was Mazie Hirono and Kamala Harris. So you have 4 members of the Senate Judiciary Committee that have questioned judges, including Amy Coney Barrett in her Seventh Circuit confirmation hearing, about their Catholic faith. I thought we had gotten past that in 1960 with the election of John F. Kennedy, but I think that when you look at the left on the on these issues, they will use whatever they think is going to appeal to their base and give them an advantage. I don't think it will do that. I think that they've probably seen enough pushback that they're not going to openly do it. But again, I would suspect that they're going to be pushing these narratives and these talking points to the press. Now, as far as Kamala Harris goes, look, I mean, one of the things that, Kamala Harris, when she gets up there, she thinks she's the smartest person in the room. Well, guess what? When she goes up against Amy Coney Barrett, she's going to be extremely intellectually outmatched.
I am looking forward to that, actually. That was one of the first things, if she's even in the room. Although the last time I heard her answer that question, it sounds like she will definitely be part of the committee process.
Kamala,
right.
Kamala Harris,
one of the unfortunate things with Kamala, and I think we've seen this throughout the course of the past years, she is a very good cross-examiner. But if you get her on defense, she is absolutely terrible. She cannot answer questions. Her questions are inconsistent. It's unfortunate that she's going to be the one that gets to ask the questions here. But I do think that she's going to have no answers for some of the pushback from Judge Barrett, who, again, 20 years constitutional scholar is very different from being a attorney general.
Yeah, and we saw Kamala here earlier in the year when she was running for president. She was in Iowa for the caucuses, and of course she had to fold up her tent and leave because she just wasn't catching on. The little bit of popularity she had, the more she roamed around the state, the less she had. So we'll see what happens. But it's going to be an interesting confirmation hearing. That's supposed to start in a couple of weeks, and we wish you well in what you are doing, and we'll see how it goes in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure she's probably going to be confirmed, but the hearing will be as interesting to watch as the debate was the other night. We'll see if it goes into a full-fledged mud bath like it was the other day. But Ian, we're so happy that you were with us today. I want to thank you for your time, and we will keep you informed of what we're doing at the Article 3 project. By the way, what is the web page for that in case somebody wants to look up and see what you guys are doing?
Yeah, let me get that for you. I would add before I go there that we are absolutely ready to fight for Judge Amy Coney Barrett. And if you want to help, if you want to learn more about what we're doing, go to article3project.org. That's article number 3project.org.
Very good.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We certainly appreciate it. God bless you and your work. And we will be right back after these messages. You're listening to Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio.
Thank you, Blessman International, for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio. Everyone lives their life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How we use that time directly affects if our life will leave a significant impact or not. Each year, Blessman International leads Central Iowans on a 12-day, all-inclusive experience sharing the heart of Christ with children in South Africa. Teams are forming to do something significant in an African child's life. Learn more at blessmaninternational.org. That's blessmaninternational.org.
Thank you, Big Red Q Quick Print, for underwriting the sports report. Family owned and operated since 1980, Big Red Q Quick Print is a full-service print shop ready to help you with all your printing needs with speed and accuracy. Forms, manuals, brochures, letterhead, envelopes, business cards, custom invitations, design, and bindery. Big Red Q Quick Print, located across from Merle Hay Mall. Online at bigredq-desmoines.com. Big Red Q Quick Print. We make printing easy.
Is it time for a new roof? Then it could be time for you to get to know Bell Construction. Bell Construction is a roofing company entering its 30th year of business. They specialize in residential re-roofs, light commercial jobs, and have the experience to meet all of your roofing needs with personal service. With Bell Construction, the owner will come to your home or place of business in person to inspect and ensure the quality of work that you deserve. They pride themselves in working with you on a personal basis and making sure you are satisfied. Bell Construction, 515-963-4494.
What is the best gift ever? Giving a Catholic education is at the top of my list. Your contribution to CTO helps families send their children to our Catholic schools who otherwise could not afford it. In giving to CTO, you receive the best tax credits ever. Pledge or donate online at ctoiowa.org. The bottom line, it's for the kids and their future.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Dowling Catholic Sports is provided in part by Ashworth Vision Clinic. With 2 licensed optometrists, Barbara Sheets, a Dowling graduate, and Dr. Craig Harper, the Ashworth Vision Clinic team provides complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. Ashworth Vision Clinic is located at 60th and Ashworth in West Des Moines. 515-440-4610 or online, ashworthvision.com.
Here's your forecast on Iowa Catholic Radio. We have cool air filtering in from Canada and the Northern Plains. That'll keep our temperatures in the upper 50s for the afternoon. Wind will be gusting up to 25 miles per hour and partly sunny. A few clouds and a little frost overnight, mid-30s, mid-50s, and sunny tomorrow. The weather is brought to you by Divine Treasures, a Catholic book and gift store serving the Des Moines community for over 25 years. I'm meteorologist Steve Hamilton on Iowa Catholic Radio.
And we are back. This is Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio. I want to remind you that this week is our Carathon. If you want to go to iowacatholicradio.com and pledge some support for our radio station, we would certainly appreciate that. We're going to turn our attention now to something else. We have Johannes Wilmalm Delphonse. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but I'm sure I didn't.
Pretty close.
Pretty close? Okay. Should I stop there or try and go further?
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, certainly. I appreciate it. Now, you're an attorney with the Alliance Defending Freedom, and we have a couple of cases in Virginia that we're following today, and they have to do with the religious liberties and the liberties of certain nonprofits to conduct their affairs according to their own set of values. Can you kind of give us a nutshell as to what these 2 cases are that were just filed this week?
Absolutely. Well, everyone should be free to live and work according to their beliefs without the fear of the government coming in and unjustly punishing them. And that's why we filed this lawsuit. We're representing a photographer, Bob Updegrove. He creates photography for corporations, nonprofits, schools, and he also celebrates marriages. He's a Christian. He believes that marriage is between a man and a woman, and he wants to celebrate marriages consistent with his beliefs. But Virginia says that if he creates those types of photography, he also has to create photography for same-sex marriages. He can't do so without violating his conscience, and Virginia can't force him to do that without violating the First Amendment. Similarly, we're representing churches, a few Christian schools, and a network of pro-life pregnancy centers. They will not be able to operate consistent with their beliefs that God created us male and female, that marriage is between a man and a woman. But the Virginia law comes in and meddles with their ability to set internal policies and hiring decisions consistent with those beliefs. Again, they can't do that under the Virginia Constitution either. And so we filed a separate lawsuit on their behalf challenging this law.
Okay, now the law, as I understand, was just passed this past summer. Is that correct?
Correct. It was passed on July 1st.
And what exactly does the law say that you're challenging?
Well, the law specifically says that no one can attempt to deny or publish that they're going to deny any kind of services based on, race, religion, these different characteristics. Sorry. Right. In addition to sexual orientation and gender identity, but Virginia interprets this to mean that they actually have to promote messages that violate their beliefs. Otherwise, they're violating this law.
Is there any religious exception in the law?
So for the employers, there is the statute does say that they can hire employees of the same faith, but it then turns around and says that they cannot take into consideration the employees' adherence to these sorts of to the core tenets of the faith, whether that be sexual orientation or their willingness to their agreement with their teachings on sexuality. So although there is an exemption, it doesn't effectively protect these organizations.
So you can hire somebody from your own religious denomination to teach in a religious school, but they don't necessarily have to adhere to the denomination's teachings in what they teach. Is that about correct?
That's correct. If the school wants to then fire someone who enters into a relationship that violates the faith, they can't do that.
Okay, so if I have in a Catholic school, for example, a teacher that decides that she's going to marry another woman, and the Catholic school says that violates our norms, you're going to lose your job if you do that, the school would be in violation of the Virginia law.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I saw that they had a companion piece of legislation that also forces these organizations to provide health insurance coverage that covers things that may also be in violation of their norms and values for gender affirming surgeries, those kinds of things, abortion coverage.
It'll be like the Little Sisters of the Poor again.
Exactly, that case.
That's exactly right. In that case, as you mentioned, the Supreme Court said that the government can exempt religious organizations from, covering those types of services. There is no such exemption here. They have to provide those services that would change a person's biological sex or what have you. Otherwise, they're violating the law.
So where has this legislation come from? Obviously, it passed this summer. It's probably been in the making for a while. Why is Virginia so determined to take away the rights of faith-based organizations?
That's a good question because, we've seen these types of laws weaponized against people of faith throughout the country. We've seen it in Minnesota, where there were some Christian videographers who wanted to celebrate marriage consistent with their beliefs. We saw it in Arizona, in Kentucky, and courts have uniformly held that states cannot infringe on people's sincerely held beliefs in these ways. Nonetheless, the Virginia legislature passed this law, and it's very clear that they do intend to target people of faith because they made comments during the legislative sessions, saying that these sorts of beliefs were bigotry. They rejected amendments that would have protected religious organizations and creative professionals who wanted to, create consistent with their beliefs, but they declined to do so. So it's clear what they intend to do, but we're hoping that the court, applies the First Amendment principles correctly, like other courts around the country have done.
Now, you mentioned something that kind of scares me, and that's that during the debates, they talked about Christian beliefs as being bigoted.
Right. There were amendments, basically, again, that would have created protections for religious organizations who want to hire and create these sort of internal policies and employment decisions consistent with their beliefs. And though there was very vehement language by some of the legislators opposing those sorts of amendments, saying that there's no room for religious bigotry, these amendments would create a license for discrimination, things along those lines.
So the traditional Christian beliefs are bigoted, but attacking the churches and these organizations that want to profess them is not bigoted. I guess that's the state of society that we're in today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
that's why we need you guys.
Well, and that's why we're thankful for our clients who, despite the sort of things that hurl at them, right, being called bigoted. Some of our, many of our clients have received those sorts of messages. They understand that it's actually not even just about Christians. It's actually about everyone's ability to freely express themselves and to live their life according to their beliefs. Because whether you're an atheist or a Jew or a Muslim or a Christian, everyone has those core beliefs, and everyone wants to live consistent with them.
Exactly. Slippery slope.
And so, right. And so our clients understand that, and they're taking that step. But it shouldn't really be a controversial issue. Everyone should agree that people should be able to have those rights.
But that's the problem. Everybody doesn't agree with that. And there's a large number of people, a large number of organizations out there that are politically pushing the other way.
Yes, and as we've seen across the country, thankfully courts have pretty uniformly held that they can't do that. Whether it's the government or other organizations that are, bringing these lawsuits, they are thankfully upholding First Amendment principles. We're just hoping that they continue to do so.
Now, as I know, the Alliance Defending Freedom, these are not isolated incidents that we're talking about here. These cases are being replicated across the country in almost every state and every court venue.
We're seeing them all over the place. Just recently in Kentucky, the city there, Louisville, they wanted to actually force, just like Bob Updegrove here in Virginia, they wanted to force a Christian photographer to celebrate same-sex weddings against her beliefs. They tried to, we had to take them to court, and although the case isn't done yet, thankfully, the judge gave us a very good ruling saying, I actually have the language here, it was really good. He said, America is wide enough for those who applaud same-sex marriage and those who refuse to. The Constitution does not require a choice between gay rights and freedom of speech. It demands both. Unfortunately, though, also we've seen people like Bernal Stutzman. She was a floral artist in Washington. Right. She served her client for 9 years. Rob, but he identifies as gay, and when he asked her to create wedding flowers for his wedding, she couldn't do so consistent with her faith. And she's been in court for years, and she's still waiting for justice.
Well, and you have the baker up there too, Sweet Cakes by Melissa. You have the baker in Colorado that not only won in the Supreme Court, but now Colorado's trying to get another bite at the apple with him. Arizona's been another hotbed for this stuff. This seems to be as never ending, and it shows us why the courts are so important today, and so are organizations like the Alliance Defending Freedom that will step up and will protect those religious liberties.
Johannes, I have a question about this particular case that you're bringing in Virginia. Is it a case that when you win, it will throw the laws out, or is it simply a win for your clients in this particular situation?
And so that's a great point. It's not. We're not asking to throw out the law, right? There's some provisions in there that we don't have a problem with. Where we're seeking is just protection for our clients and people who are similarly situated with them. So, again, creative artists who want to create art consistent with their beliefs, religious organizations who want to set internal policies to actually be able to carry out their purpose.
Wonderful. And I noticed also, we haven't talked about this, but that pretty stiff fines for those that violate this particular $100,000 every time they are found to have been in violation?
Correct. It's up to $50,000 for a first-time violation, and then $100,000 for violations after that. And that's in addition to attorney's fees, court costs, investigations, the entire lawsuits. It would easily bankrupt, someone like Bob Updegrove or the religious schools that we're representing.
That's what I was going to say. I would destroy a Catholic school for sure.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny it's not funny, but during the legislative sessions, when they talked about some of these, penalty provisions, they specifically said that this is what they want to do. And they said, if you don't want to be subject to these provisions, then you have to, agree with what it is that we're trying to do, and you have to affirm these beliefs. Otherwise, this law is punishing people exactly as it's meant to do.
Wow. I think your website is adflegal.org. Is that correct?
That's correct. They can find information about our lawsuits there.
Very good. Right. Very good. And even we're doing our Carathon right now, but I know ADF and other organizations like you are always accepting donations on behalf of religious liberty. And if somebody has some extra bucks laying around, they might want to consider ADF. Johannes, I want to thank you for joining us today. We certainly appreciate it. We're going to be following this case, and we may have you back later when we have a result.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us.
All right.
You're listening to Faith on Trial on Iowa Catholic Radio, and as I mentioned, we are on our Carathon this week, and if you want to call us with a pledge or a donation, 223-1150, you can text that number and text the word donate, and you'll get a link back to show you how to do it, or you can simply go to iowacatholicradio.com, and there's a button there that says donate. Just follow that. This is how we stay in business here, is on your donations, and we certainly appreciate everything that you can do, and if you can't do a whole lot financially, we certainly appreciate your prayers. And we will be right back after these messages.
What is the best gift ever? Giving a Catholic education is at the top of my list. Your contribution to CTO helps families send their children to our Catholic schools who otherwise could not afford it. In giving to CTO, you receive the best tax credits ever. Pledge or donate online at ctoiowa.org. The bottom line, it's for the kids and their future.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Dowling Catholic Sports is provided in part by Ashworth Vision Clinic. With 2 licensed optometrists, Barbara Sheets, a Dowling graduate, and Dr. Craig Harper, the Ashworth Vision Clinic team provides complete eye exams, contact lenses, glasses, glaucoma testing, and pre- and post-operative care. Ashworth Vision Clinic is located at 60th and Ashworth in West Des Moines. 515-440-4610 or online, ashworthvision.com.
Thank you, Dental Associates, for underwriting Dowling Catholic Sports 365. With over 40 years' experience, Dental Associates is a group dental practice with the mission of promoting optimum health and well-being to all patients, providing preventative, restorative, and cosmetic dentistry for the entire family. Message underwritten by Dr. Kenton Gleichman, Dr. Steve Karbaka, Dr. Christine Mulcahy, and Dr. Ben Nagel. Dental Associates, addressing your smile, needs, and dreams. Online at DesMoines-DentalAssociates.com.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Faith on Trial provided by Paul Martin and Paul Mitchell, owners of Imogene Ingredients. Imogene Ingredients supply specialized feed ingredients for livestock and pet diets to improve maternal and young animal health in both conventional and organic production. Information about Pharmatan and other products at ImogeneIngredients.com. Paul and Paul are members of St. Augustine's Knights of Columbus and encourage their brother knights to keep standing for their faith.
Support for Iowa Catholic Radio and Storm Alert Weather is provided by Divine Treasures. Divine Treasures is a Catholic book and gift store serving the Des Moines community for over 25 years. Their mission is to help Catholics know, love, and keep their faith in our Lord Jesus Christ and His Church. Divine Treasures is where you can find great Catholic books, beautiful Bibles, rosaries, jewelry, statues, and religious gifts for those memorable events in your life. Divine Treasures, 5701 Hickman Road, Des Moines, 515-255-5230. Thank you to Divine Treasures for their support of Iowa Catholic Radio.
Thank you, Skeffington's Formal Wear, for sponsoring Dowling Catholic High School football. In business since 1951, Skeffington's Formal Wear offers quality service, style, and selection, providing tuxedos, suits, and casual groom attire for weddings, proms, and any other special occasion. Skeffington's Formal Wear, with convenient locations in Des Moines, West Des Moines, Davenport, Coralville, and Ankeny. All locations are family-owned and operated by members in their respective communities, fitting you for life celebrations. Online at skeffingtons.com.
And welcome back. You're listening to Faith on Trial, Iowa Catholic Radio. Gina, interesting show today, all dealing with things that are out there in the news today that are affecting religious liberties.
Not just the news, but in the courts. I mean, the courts have a big, sometimes as a student, you learn about the branches of government, and you think, oh, well, the courts have nothing to do with me. As long as I stay out of trouble, they won't ever mean anything in my life.
Which is the way a lot of our founders thought of the courts when they set them up. Yeah.
That's right. And as we learn on the show, it means a lot. What these cases, these brave people that step forward to allow cases filed on their behalfs, or the brave men and women, attorneys who step forward to be appointed as justices of our Supreme Court or our federal courts or our state courts are really heroes in our lives in protecting our rights and liberties.
Right, and if we dilute what they do with politics, we're liable to find that our rights are being lost, especially this whole concept of packing the Supreme Court. And, that's easily done. The Constitution only says that there'll be one Supreme Court and other inferior courts that Congress may create, and that they serve, when they're appointed, they serve for life, in good behavior. There's no qualifications listed. Congress could make qualifications. Congress could, if they wanted to pack the court, could decide, well, we want a geographical balance in the court, we want a racial balance on the court, we want this balance on the court, we want that balance on the court. They could really muck it up for us.
Exactly.
And I'm afraid until we get the answers, we've got to consider that as we look ahead to November 3rd.
Right. And this, it's clear to me that for so long we have stereotyped and had a terrible reputation for attorneys, especially trial attorneys, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to live that down.
I know, Deacon Mike, it's a burden you have to bear.
Yes.
But I can't help but think through this nomination process of Judge Barrett that our young ladies have such a stellar example and model of what a great lawyer looks like. And how they and mother
and Catholic,
and Catholic, all of those things. That if you persist, you will win, and just great for our faith and great for our children as models.
Well, she certainly is a model for a lot of people, and I tell you honestly, if I was advising the one side on the committee that's going to hear her testify in front of it, I would advise them just to ask simple questions and to not get into any of the other stuff they got into with Kavanaugh. Don't get into the dogma lives loudly within you. Give her basically a pass, because the Republicans have the votes to put her on the court. And if they do anything, as Johannes says, they do anything that's going to blow, or not Johannes, I guess Ian
our first
said, that's going to blow back in their face.
Yeah, I think we'll say more about them than it will about Judge Barrett.
It will, yeah.
So very good. And then we still, our second story today with the Virginia law that clearly attacks people of faith. It shocks me. Have we not been down this road 15? Are they trying one more time to
We have been. Well, how long
destroy?
Have we been on the air? These are stories that we've had on the air.
Exactly. You started to list off,
yeah.
for the last 5 years. And the courts, even all the way up to the Supreme Court, have clearly said this is not something
and
that
it was interesting.
is allowed
Last
in America.
week we had, Martin Cannon on from the Thomas More Society that was talking about how the margin in the Supreme Court for religious liberty has gone from unanimous to one by one. It gets tighter and tighter and tighter to now it's 5-4.
Right.
And so this nomination is very important if you're looking at religious liberty. And that's what got us involved in this radio stuff to begin with, was religious liberty
and
issues.
I imagine if she's on the court, it will be less likely, or it'll be much easier to get a win for religious liberty without someone peeling off and,
That's right, yeah, because you have the conservative will have a 6-3 majority on the court, and so they can lose a vote and still have a 5-4. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how the opposition handles her. I would just advise them to handle her with kid gloves, because it's going to be very difficult to
to dirty her up like they tried to do to Kavanaugh. Although maybe somebody come forward and say, remember that party that Kavanaugh was at? I saw her there too, and we'll be into the whole thing all over again.
It doesn't sound like she has
it doesn't sound like it.
A background.
Doesn't sound like it.
And good for her.
Good for her.
This busy month, October, we're running up to 33 days to the election.
Right.
We've got a Supreme Court nominee. There will be a lot of fodder for this programming. We can continue to bring you these great guests and stories with your support as a listener. The Carathon's going on all week. If you find some time, please contribute. You can visit us at iowacatholicradio.com to make your contribution there, or text or call our phone number at 515-223-1150. If you text the word donate, they'll send back a link that'll help you make that contribution.
Yeah, and it's important for everybody to kind of stand up. And like I say, if you don't have money that you can donate, at least give us your prayers. We need those. But if you do have some spare change, no amount is too small. But we should add that no amount is too large either. So
exactly.
Just, be generous. Want to mention again, Saturday, October 10th at noon on the corner of 42nd and Grand, right next outside of St. Augustine's Parish. Other places are doing this too, but I don't have all their addresses yet. But we're doing a public rosary as part of a prayer across the United States for our country just before the election. Next week, we don't have anybody yet next week. So
no, but
if you'd like to be on the program, call us and we'll get you on.
As quickly as news is coming in and things are happening, we're going to have a great show.
Yeah, we're going to have somebody. We're going to have somebody. All right, that's about it for now. I guess want to thank everybody for listening, and let's end with our prayer to St. Michael. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. That's it for today. For Gina and myself, thank you for listening. Join us again next week. Don't forget the Carathon. Pledge something for us, even if it's just prayers. But until next week, have a blessed and peaceful week.
Our freedom of conscience and religion is being challenged by laws and regulations imposed by secular society. Faith on Trial, with Defender of the Faith, Deacon Mike Mano. Faith on Trial, Thursdays at 10 a.m. on Iowa Catholic Radio, iowacatholicradio.com, and the Iowa Catholic Radio app.
Support for Faith on Trial and Iowa Catholic Radio provided in part by Imogene Ingredients.